whatever makes you cry or what makes you feel really sad, that's it, there it is. And there's always a way, no matter what your business is, if it's financial, if it's this, if it's that, there's always a way to tie it into something that means more to you than the business. Of course, the customer means everything to you. You ask me why I'm still doing this 20 years later. I care so much about the woman. And I also, not only when I was trying to solve an undergarment issue for myself, I stood on the floors of these manufacturing plants in North Carolina, and I realized there weren't any women in the room. And I was like, wow, and it didn't really seem like they were caring, the industry was caring about how we felt. And so I stood on the floor that day, and I remember saying to myself, I'll be that person. I'll be the girl that cares about how the women feel in these things. And so, that's been the lens for me at Spanx. And there's still so much left to make that I can make better for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm tearing up myself because my is seeing people break through, seeing people claim their truth and serve something larger than yourself. And you're such a beautiful model of that. I wanted you to come here, too, because women do everything today. We had a conversation earlier this week about if you don't admire and respect the feminine, including women sometimes who don't, because they think masculine is more powerful.
Yeah.
They forget that no one on this earth made it without making it through a woman who had the courage to bring life through them, much less, I see so many women work all day long in their business and come home and raise their kids and take care of husbands or wives or whoever they're with, and women are extraordinary. And yet I see so many women that think power is in masculine. And we all have it. I have feminine in me. I'm sitting here tearing up with you. I have masculine in me. We all have it. But sometimes we try to be something we're different than because the culture reinforces it. And you are the most successful, arguably maybe in the world, but certainly in our country, female entrepreneur in terms of results, short period of time impact. And yet your feminine is so alive. Your vulnerability is so alive. What can you say to the women in this room who think they have to become masculine to achieve things as opposed to just using all of themselves, masculine and feminine? What's your philosophy, and what do you want other female entrepreneurs to know about this, that they don't have to give up who they are in some way?
That was actually a really conscious decision I made early on. And, business has been a very masculine construct, okay? And I'm so happy to hear you talk about the energy, because I talk about this. I have a foundation, and I talk about my greater mission is to elevate the feminine on the planet, but I believe that it's the masculine and feminine energy on the planet that needs to be in balance, that the feminine has been squashed for like 3,000 years, for a while, and we all have masculine and feminine in us. I know CEOs that are very balanced in their feminine, like Hamdi from Chobani comes to mind. He's got that. Richard Branson's got that. And then women, we have the masculine and feminine. So I really am in search of the balance. But when I first started Spanx, I was maybe a month into it, and I had been written up in the local paper in Atlanta, and I was at a cocktail party, and 3 men came up to me, and they go, Sarah, we read about you. You invented something. That's great. And I said, yeah, I did. I'm so excited. And one guy pat me on the shoulder, and he goes, Sarah, business is war. And the other guys kind of laughed and looked at each other, and they go, yep, business is war. And then they walked away, and I went home into my apartment, and I sat on the floor of my apartment, and I actually started to cry. And I remember saying to myself, why does it have to be war? I don't want it to be war. That's not my script. And I'm going to go about this in a very different way and just see what happens. And I honored the feminine through the whole journey.
I know you do. And that's the number one reason I wanted you to be here, honestly.
Really?
Yes, because I see so many women also. I think there has been injustice. There's immature masculine is squashed feminine. One is trying to control. Mature masculine wants to love and serve. And so I think so some women try to become what they think is masculine, and they model the very thing that they dislike. And you have not done that. What is your metaphor for business? I think of it as a spiritual game. How do you add more value? What is your metaphor for business?
Oh, wow. I've never thought about a metaphor for it, but it's this just beautiful unfolding journey.
Yes, a journey. That's beautiful.
It's just a beautiful journey. And, I will say, Tony, about a lot of the women, I recognize that a lot of the women that came before me had to act like men.
Yes, I
and
agree.
had to try to look like men to even get the chance to have their foot in the door.
Yes.
And so, I'm thrilled that I'm in a place in time where the men and the women are honoring and respecting the feminine. And I do believe the feminine is very powerful. And to your point, I'm very grateful for the masculine in me.
Yes.
Masculine in me has made a huge difference in my life. But I didn't want to downplay the feminine in rooms full of people that had kind of lost their way of the feminine and I'm happy that now in business, I think a lot of men and women are really embracing the feminine. I mean, it's the balance, I lead my business with vulnerability, empathy, intuition. I mean, I'm in a business group with, I joined YEO when I first started Spanx because one thing that happens when we're entrepreneurs is one day we become a boss. I was selling fax machines, complaining about the boss. I had all this camaraderie bitching about the boss. And then one day I was like, oh my God, I'm the boss, And I had no peers and no one to talk to. And I had these people sitting in my apartment going, like, you're the boss, what are we gonna do? And I'd never even had a manager really that I had learned from when I was in this role of entrepreneur and now boss. And so I joined this group, which I recommend if you have any way to find people that are like you and going through what you're going through, which is wonderful while you're at this seminar, because I'm sure you're all making great friends, and these are all like-minded people. I joined a group called YEO, Young Entrepreneur Organization. It's a national organization. They put you in a forum. I was in a forum with 10 guys. I'm the only girl. I've met with these 10 guys every month for 18 years, and now they're like my brothers. I mean, I say I feel like I'm Jane Goodall, but instead of observing gorillas in the wild, I get to observe men in their natural habitat because they forget I'm there. I'm always like, wow, this is so interesting. And I go on vacation with them once a year, these 10 guys. Anyway, for the first 4 years, they all were placing bets how long I was going to last in business. I didn't know that. They've now admitted that to me. But you can imagine, I mean, I go in there, they're like, what's your business plan? I'm like, I don't have one. They're like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to talk to the universe about this. I mean, literally, I would say these things. And then they'd be like, well, how are you going to make that happen? I'm like, I'm going to manifest it. Give me a minute. I'll manifest it. I mean, these guys were like, woohoo. And then Tony, like 4 years into it, they start seeing like, she's not really going away and her business is kind of doing great. So what's going on here? And one by one, they don't know this, but one by one, each one of them have pulled me aside. And each of them have said to me, so Sarah, how do you talk to the universe?
I think honoring the male and female in all of us is the real secret, isn't it? Integrating,
Totally.
being an integrated human being,
Yes.
finding what your lead system is, but honoring both parts and honoring other people as well. There's some questions from our audience. I
Okay,
know a while. Are
perfect.
you okay with that?
Yeah,
Just a few?
sure.
She wanted to have a few in advance, so if I call your name, you can stand up, but we're going to, for time's sake, read your question. So Amanda Marie asks, what would you do differently if you could jump into a time